There are moments in life when the very ground beneath you shifts, when the story you thought was written suddenly reveals itself as someone else's fiction. Mine came at 65, across a Thanksgiving table laden with organic quinoa and expectations I could no longer meet. "You've become a burden," he said, this man who'd known my family 8 months while I'd built it across 5 decades. The words hung in air thick with cranberry chutney and betrayal. And I waited for my children to object, to remember the midnight fevers I'd soothed, the mortgage payments I'd quietly covered, the life I'd poured out for them like water into parched earth. But the silence stretched, damning in its completeness. In that moment, I understood with perfect clarity they had been planning my diminishment, mapping my surrender, while I'd been planning their Christmas gifts. They saw a fading woman requiring management. They never imagined I might have secrets of my own, or that the grandmother they dismissed as irrelevant was about to demonstrate exactly how wrong they were about everything. The snowstorm had come earlier than forecasted. Eleanor Thompson gripped the steering wheel of her 2008 Toyota Camry, leaning forward as if those extra few inches might help her see through the swirling white chaos beyond her windshield. The wipers squeaked rhythmically, struggling against the accumulating snow. She should have been home by now, wrapped in her fleece blanket with a cup of Earl Grey, watching Jeopardy like she did every Tuesday evening. Instead, she was navigating treacherous roads, the tires of her aging sedan occasionally losing traction on patches of black ice. The 15-mile drive to Oak Ridge Youth Sports Center had already taken 30 minutes, and she was only halfway there. "You can do this, Ellie," she muttered to herself, using the nickname Thomas had given her during their 23 years of marriage. He'd been gone for 25 years now, but in moments of uncertainty, she still found herself drawing strength from his memory. The car in front of her braked suddenly, red taillights glaring through the snow. Eleanor reacted instinctively, applying gentle pressure to her brakes while turning slightly to avoid a collision. The car fishtailed, heart lurching in her chest as the anti-lock brake system, which had been acting temperamental lately, failed to engage properly. For a terrifying moment, the car slid sideways toward the guardrail. Eleanor forced herself to remain calm, easing off the brake and making a slight steering correction. The tires finally caught traction, bringing the car back under control mere feet from the metal barrier. Her heart pounded against her ribs as she continued forward, hands trembling slightly. The repair shop had quoted $800 to fix the braking system, money she couldn't justify spending when the car was otherwise reliable, and those funds might be needed for one of Nathan's frequent temporary financial emergencies. 20 minutes and several near misses later, Eleanor pulled into the sports center parking lot. The call from Rebecca had come just as Eleanor was preparing to attend her monthly book club meeting. Max had been stranded at basketball practice because Rebecca had a last-minute client emergency at her yoga studio. Nathan was at a construction site 2 hours away, which left Eleanor as the only available option. "Of course I'll get him," Eleanor had said, suppressing her disappointment. The book club was one of her few remaining social outlets since retirement. "Don't worry about it." Eleanor spotted her 11-year-old grandson sitting alone on a bench near the entrance, hunched over his phone, apparently oblivious to the fact that the parking lot was nearly empty. The center's lights were dimmed. They'd clearly been waiting for the last child to be picked up before closing. She parked as close as possible to the entrance and hurried inside, snow immediately soaking through her inappropriately thin flats. "Max, I'm so sorry I'm late. The storm made driving difficult." Max barely looked up from his phone. "It's fine." A middle-aged man in an Oak Ridge sports polo shirt approached with visible relief. "You must be Max's grandmother. We were getting concerned." "I'm so sorry," Eleanor repeated, feeling heat rise to her cheeks. "The weather." "No worries," he said, though his tone suggested otherwise. "Drive safely getting home." Max shuffled to the car without offering to help Eleanor, who was struggling with the basketball bag he'd left on the bench. The coach, taking pity, grabbed it and walked them to the car. "Thanks for waiting with him," Eleanor said. "I really appreciate it." "No problem. That's quite a storm out there." He glanced at her car, visibly concerned. "Are you sure you're okay to drive in this? I could call someone." The suggestion stung more than it should have. At 65, Eleanor wasn't incapable, despite what everyone seemed to think. "We'll be fine," she said firmly. "I've been driving in New England winters since before you were born." In the car, Max immediately put on headphones, effectively blocking any conversation. Eleanor navigated carefully back onto the main road, hyper-aware of the precious cargo beside her. "Are you hungry?" she asked loudly enough to penetrate his headphones. "I could stop at that drive-thru you like." Max pulled one side of his headphones away. "What? No, I'm good. Mom said there's dinner at home." "Okay then." Eleanor said to the back of his head as he re-engaged with his game. The return journey was even more treacherous. By the time Eleanor pulled into Rebecca and Nathan's driveway, her shoulders ached from tension, and exhaustion had settled deep in her bones. "Thanks, Grandma," Max said perfunctorily as he hopped out, leaving Eleanor to struggle with his heavy sports bag. Rebecca met them at the door, sleek in expensive athleisure wear, despite the emergency that had apparently prevented her from picking up her son. "Eleanor, thank you so much for getting him. Was traffic awful? You look exhausted." "The roads were pretty bad," Eleanor admitted, stamping snow from her feet. "The plows haven't been through yet?" Rebecca was already turning away. "Max, go shower before dinner. Eleanor, would you like to stay? We're having quinoa bowls with roasted vegetables." The invitation was clearly obligatory. Rebecca was already checking notifications on her phone, and Eleanor could see the table was set for 3. "No, thank you. I should get home before the roads get worse." "Probably wise. Drive carefully." Rebecca gave her a quick, distracted hug. "Oh, and don't forget, Olivia needs you this weekend for the twins while she's at that marketing retreat." "Right," Eleanor said, though this was the first she'd heard of it. "No problem." The door closed behind her before she could say goodbye to Max. For a moment, Eleanor stood on the porch, watching snow accumulate on her car, wondering when she'd become an afterthought in her own family's life. Dr. Abrams reviewed Eleanor's chart with a frown that deepened the lines around his eyes. "Your blood pressure is higher than I'd like to see. Eleanor, 158 over 94. Eleanor shifted uncomfortably on the examination table, the paper crinkling beneath her. "It's probably just white coat syndrome," she offered. "I was rushing to make it here on time." "Perhaps," he conceded, "but combined with these headaches you've been experiencing and your family history of stroke, I'm concerned. Are you taking your medication regularly?" "Of course," Eleanor lied. The truth was she sometimes skipped doses when the prescription ran low, stretching it until her Social Security check arrived. Between helping Nathan with his mortgage last year and covering Emma's dance camp tuition, her fixed income required careful management. "And how's your stress level?" Eleanor laughed softly. "About average for someone my age, I suppose." "Which means," Dr. Abrams prompted, setting down his tablet to give her his full attention. Eleanor hesitated. She rarely complained, even to her doctor. Complaining felt like failure somehow, an admission that she couldn't handle what life threw at her. Thomas had never complained, not even during his deployment or through his final illness. "Eleanor," Dr. Abrams said gently, "I've been your doctor for 15 years. Your health matters, and stress is a significant factor in hypertension." "I'm fine, really," she insisted. "The kids need help sometimes, but that's normal. They're busy with their own lives. And you, what are you busy with?" The question caught her off guard. "I volunteer at the library twice a week, and there's my garden, of course." "What about friends' activities you enjoy?" "I have my book club," she said, thinking of the meetings she'd missed. "And I help Mrs. Abernathy next door with her groceries. She's 82 and has arthritis." Dr. Abrams made a note. "I'm writing you a prescription, but not just for medication. I want you to do something solely for your enjoyment at least twice a week. Something that isn't about helping others or fulfilling responsibilities. Can you do that?" Eleanor nodded, though she wasn't sure what that would even look like. Her life had been defined by responsibilities for so long. As she was gathering her things to leave, her phone rang. Olivia's name flashed on the screen. "Mom." Olivia's voice carried the familiar undercurrent of stress that had been present since her separation from Brad last year. "I hate to ask, but is there any way you could take the twins this weekend? There's this marketing retreat in Boston, and it could mean a promotion if I make the right impression." Eleanor glanced at Dr. Abrams, who raised an eyebrow. "I had plans with some former colleagues," she began. "Oh." Olivia's disappointment was palpable. "No, I understand. It's just that Brad was supposed to have the kids, but he's taking his new girlfriend to Bermuda, and I really need this promotion after the divorce settlement cleaned me out." Eleanor sighed silently. "It's fine, Olivia. I can reschedule. What time should I come over?" The relief in her daughter's voice was almost worth the sacrifice. Almost. Dr. Abrams shook his head slightly as Eleanor ended the call. "That prescription for self-care starts today." "Eleanor, not next month. Not when everyone else's needs are met. Today." Eleanor smiled weakly. "I'll try, doctor. I really will." But as she left the clinic, her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan Emergency at work site. "Rebecca's car and shop. Can you pick up kids from school at 3?" Eleanor closed her eyes briefly. then typed, "Of course, no problem." The call came at 10:23 p.m., just as Eleanor was preparing for bed. Nathan's voice held the tight, controlled panic she recognized from his childhood emergencies. "Mom, I need your help. Rebecca fell during a handstand demonstration at her yoga studio. She's at the ER with a dislocated shoulder and possible concussion." Eleanor was already reaching for her jeans. "I'm on my way. Do you need me to come to the hospital?" "No, they're releasing her soon, but she'll be on pain medication. I need someone to stay with the kids tomorrow. I have that big commercial project walkthrough that I can't reschedule. It could mean a contract worth over $200,000. "I'll be there in 30 minutes, Eleanor said, mentally canceling her plans to repot her orchids and attend a free lecture at the community center. When she arrived, the house was in disarray, dishes piled in the sink, laundry overflowing from hampers, homework scattered across the dining table. Max and Lily were still awake, despite the late hour, playing video games in the family room. Grandma Lily, at 13, was still young enough to be excited by her grandmother's arrival. She threw her arms around Eleanor. "Is Mom okay?" "She's going to be fine, sweetheart. Just needs some rest." Eleanor set down her overnight bag. "It's pretty late. Why don't you both get ready for bed? I'll make breakfast in the morning before school." After getting the children settled, Eleanor tackled the kitchen, knowing Rebecca would be distressed to come home to chaos. She was loading the dishwasher when Nathan arrived with a groggy Rebecca, her arm in a sling. "Mom, you're a lifesaver," Nathan said, helping Rebecca to the bedroom. "I don't know what we'd do without you." Eleanor warmed at the rare acknowledgement, continuing to clean long after Nathan had settled Rebecca and gone to bed himself. While wiping down the counters, she noticed a stack of mail pushed to one side. She wasn't one to pry, but a bright red final notice caught her attention. Against her better judgment, Eleanor glanced at the opened envelope. It was a mortgage statement showing 3 months of missed payments and a threatened foreclosure action. The outstanding balance was just over $15,000. Eleanor's heart sank. Nathan had mentioned business was slow, but he'd never indicated things were this dire. She remembered loaning him $10,000 last year when a client had backed out of a major project money he promised to repay as soon as things picked up. The next morning, after sending the children off to school with freshly prepared lunches, Eleanor made a phone call to her financial advisor, Dr. Raymond Chen. "I need to withdraw $15,000 from my retirement account," she said without preamble. Dr. Chen's silence was telling. "Eleanor, we've discussed the importance of preserving your principal. Another withdrawal so soon after the last one." "It's for Nathan," she explained. "They're about to lose their house. Ray, what am I supposed to do? Let my grandchildren become homeless." "There are other options," he suggested. "Nathan could negotiate with the bank, consider a loan modification. He's too proud to admit he's struggling." Eleanor interrupted. "You know how men can be about financial difficulties. Thomas was the same way." Dr. Chen sighed. "Eleanor, I've been managing your investments for almost 20 years. You've built a respectable nest egg through discipline and sacrifice, but at the current withdrawal rate, you're endangering your own security." "I'll be fine," Eleanor insisted. "I don't need much. And what's the point of having savings if I can't help my family when they're in trouble?" "The point is ensuring you don't become financially dependent on that same family in your later years," he replied gently. "But I understand this is important to you. I'll process the withdrawal, but please, let's schedule a comprehensive review of your portfolio soon. We need to discuss sustainable support strategies." After hanging up, Eleanor wrote a check to Nathan's mortgage company and walked it to the post office, sending it express mail to ensure it arrived before any foreclosure proceedings could begin. She didn't include a note and wouldn't mention it to Nathan. He would assume the problem had been resolved through some banking error or automatic payment that had finally processed. It was better this way, she told herself. Nathan's pride remained intact, and her grandchildren would keep their home. That was worth any sacrifice. Emma's 15th birthday party was in full swing when Eleanor arrived, balancing a foil-covered dish of her homemade lasagna in one hand and a carefully wrapped package in the other. The Sullivan house was filled with teenagers, music, and the controlled chaos that seemed to follow her twin grandchildren everywhere. "Grandma," Emma broke away from a cluster of friends to hug Eleanor, careful not to disturb the lasagna. "You made it." "Of course I did. I wouldn't miss your birthday." Eleanor set the dish on the kitchen counter, where Rebecca was arranging an elaborate spread of catered food. "I brought the lasagna you like?" Rebecca's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "That's so thoughtful. Eleanor, we actually ordered a selection from that new organic place quinoa salad, vegetable platters, Those little gluten-free sandwich wraps. I see, Eleanor said, noticing now that her traditional dish looked out of place among the artfully arranged modern fare. Well, the kids always enjoy comfort food. I used whole wheat pasta this time, she added, as if that might make her contribution more acceptable. I'm sure some of the parents might enjoy it, Rebecca said diplomatically, sliding the lasagna to a less prominent position. Emma, why don't you open Grandma's gift? Emma unwrapped the package with genuine curiosity, revealing a handcrafted scrapbook. Eleanor had spent weeks collecting photographs from throughout Emma's life, arranging them chronologically and adding handwritten memories and observations. I wanted you to have a record of how special you've always been, Eleanor explained as Emma flipped through the pages. That's you at 3, when you insisted on wearing your ballet tutu to the grocery store, and there, when you won the science fair in 4th grade. This is amazing, Grandma, Emma said, her voice soft with appreciation. You made this yourself, before Eleanor could answer. One of Emma's friends peered over her shoulder. Is that, like, an actual photo album? That's so vintage. Another friend laughed. My mom used to make those before Instagram. It's kind of sweet, in an old school way. Eleanor saw Emma's enthusiasm fade slightly under her friend's reactions. The girl carefully closed the album. Thanks, Grandma. It's really thoughtful. You should post the best pics on your Instagram, suggested the first friend. With one of those retro filters? As Emma rejoined her friends, lasagna untasted and scrapbook set aside, Eleanor retreated to a quiet corner of the kitchen. She felt suddenly out of place, a relic from another era who didn't understand the digital world these children inhabited. Mom, there you are. Olivia appeared with a glass of wine, looking elegant and professional even at a teenager's birthday party. Her marketing executive position required a certain polished appearance. She'd explained once, even off duty. I've been meaning to call you all week. Everything okay with the twins? Eleanor asked. Emma and Jacob lived primarily with Olivia since the separation, though they spent alternate weekends with their father. They're fine. It's actually about you. Olivia lowered her voice. Nathan and I have been talking, and we're a little concerned about you living alone in that big house. Eleanor bristled. I've been living alone in that big house for 25 years. Olivia, since your father died. I know, but you're not getting any younger. What if you fell? What if something happened and nobody was there to help? I'm 65, not 95, Eleanor said, struggling to keep irritation from her voice. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself. Olivia sipped her wine. Gregory knows an excellent realtor who specializes in helping seniors downsize. He says the market is great right now. You could get top dollar for the house. Gregory, Olivia's boyfriend of 8 months, a financial consultant who seemed to have opinions about everything, including, apparently, Eleanor's living arrangements. I'm not interested in selling my home, Eleanor stated firmly. Mom, be reasonable. That house is too much for you to maintain. The stairs, the yard work, the utilities for space you don't even use. I use every room in my house. Olivia? Mom? No. Eleanor rarely took such a definitive tone with her children, and Olivia looked startled. That house is where I raised you and Nathan. It's where your father and I built our life. It's not just real estate to be maximized or downsized. It's my home. Olivia's expression softened. I understand it has emotional value. Mom, but emotions don't keep the roof from leaking or the furnace from breaking down. Nathan and I are just thinking practically. From across the room, Eleanor caught sight of Nathan and Rebecca huddled in conversation with Gregory, occasionally glancing in her direction. The sense of being discussed, of plans being made about her life without her input, sent a chill through her that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. I need to use the restroom, Eleanor said abruptly, setting down her untouched glass of wine. As she walked down the hallway, she passed the partially open door to Nathan's home office and heard voices from within. Stubborn like all people her age, Gregory was saying. They can't admit when it's time to accept help. She's always been independent, Nathan replied. After Dad died, she insisted on handling everything herself, even when we offered to help. That's admirable, Gregory said in a tone that suggested otherwise. But independence becomes a liability at a certain point. My mother refused assistance until she fell and broke her hip. After that, we had no choice but to move her into assisted living. Mom's not at that point yet, Olivia objected. She's still active, still sharp. For now, Gregory agreed. But these transitions are easier when planned in advance, not forced by crisis. And frankly, the financial benefits of selling her house now and investing the proceeds properly would secure her future care without burdening either of you. Eleanor felt her chest tighten. Burdening. That was how they saw her potential needs, as a burden to be managed, a problem to be solved before it inconvenienced their lives. What about her retirement savings? Rebecca asked. School secretaries don't exactly get golden parachutes. Mom's always been careful with money, Nathan said. But I doubt she has much beyond Social Security and maybe a small pension. She's helped us out so often over the years. Eleanor backed away silently, not wanting to hear more. In the bathroom, she splashed cold water on her face and stared at her reflection. When had she become someone to be managed rather than consulted? When had her decades of supporting this family transformed into an expectation that she would quietly comply with their decisions about her future by the time she returned to the party? Eleanor had composed herself, showing nothing of the turmoil within. She smiled and made appropriate conversation, complimented the catered food, and even laughed at Gregory's condescending jokes about senior moments. But something had shifted inside her, a realization that if she didn't take control of the narrative about her aging, her family would write that story for her, casting her as the declining elder who needed their management rather than the vibrant, capable woman she still was. As she drove home that evening, Eleanor made a decision. It was time to call Sylvia. They actually discussed putting you in a home behind your back. Sylvia Jackson's indignation crackled through the phone line. I'd have walked right into that office and given them a piece of my mind. Eleanor smiled despite herself. Sylvia had never been one to hold back, even when they were young military wives supporting each other through deployments and relocations. 25 years after Thomas's death, Sylvia remained her most honest friend, the one person who never treated Eleanor as fragile or diminished. It wasn't quite that dramatic, Eleanor clarified. They were discussing helping me downsize and securing my future care. But the implication was clear. Of course it was. They've decided you're a problem to solve rather than a person to respect. Sylvia's disgust was evident. You know what this is, don't you? It's the beginning of the erasure. First, they stop seeing you as an individual with preferences and autonomy. Then they start making decisions for your own good. Finally, they relegate you to the role of grateful recipient of their generosity, the burdensome elder who should be thankful for whatever scraps of attention they deign to offer. That's a bit harsh, Syl. They're concerned, that's all. Concerned about the inconvenience you might become. Sylvia countered. Trust me, I've seen it happen to too many of our friends. Remember Margaret Wilson? Her children convinced her to sell her beautiful farmhouse and move into that sterile senior apartment. 6 months later, they'd spent her home equity on their own investments and vacations, and Margaret was isolated and miserable. Eleanor sighed. What am I supposed to do, cut ties with my own children because they're worried about my living situation? No, you're supposed to establish boundaries and demonstrate that you're not a helpless old lady to be managed. You need to show them you're still Eleanor Thompson, the woman who raised 2 children alone while working full-time after her husband died in service to this country. A silence fell between them, filled with the weight of shared history and understanding. You know, Sylvia said finally, her tone gentler, there's a group you might be interested in. We meet on Thursday evenings at the community center. It's called Women of the Sandwich Generation, though most of us are more bread than filling these days. Sandwich Generation. Women caught between caring for elderly parents and supporting adult children or grandchildren, except many of us are now the elderly parents being cared for, whether we need it or not. We talk about maintaining independence, setting boundaries, and navigating family dynamics when everyone starts treating you like you're incompetent simply because you've lived long enough to collect Social Security. Eleanor hesitated. She wasn't one for support groups, preferring to handle problems privately, but the conversation she'd overheard had shaken her more than she wanted to admit. I don't know, Syl. Just come once, Sylvia urged. No obligation to share or participate, but I think you might find it enlightening to hear how many other women are experiencing exactly what you're going through. All right, Eleanor conceded. One meeting. Excellent. And Elle wear comfortable shoes. After the meeting, a few of us usually go to Charlie's for half-price margaritas and real conversation. Eleanor laughed for the first time in days. Margaritas at our age. Especially at our age, Sylvia declared, if not now. When we're in those assisted living facilities, our children are so eager to stash us in after hanging up. Eleanor sat in her garden room, surrounded by the plants she'd nurtured for decades. Through the windows, she could see the yard where Nathan and Olivia had played as children, the maple tree Thomas had planted the year they bought the house, the rose bushes she'd added after his funeral life growing from grief. This was her home, filled with memories and meaning. The thought of leaving it because her children deemed it too much for her to handle made something stubborn and defiant stir within her. She was not ready to be diminished, to be treated as less capable simply because she had reached an age that made younger people uncomfortable. Thursday couldn't come soon enough. The community center's meeting room was arranged in a circle of chairs, occupied by about 15 women ranging in age from mid-50s to late 70s. Eleanor hesitated in the doorway, suddenly self-conscious. She recognized a few faces from around town, but had never interacted with most of these women. Sylvia spotted her and waved enthusiastically. "Eleanor, over here. I saved you a seat." As Eleanor settled into the metal folding chair, a tall, elegant black woman in her early 70s stood to address the group. "Welcome, everyone. I see we have a new face tonight. I'm Dr. Marilyn Washington, retired sociology professor and facilitator of this completely unofficial gathering of women who refuse to disappear quietly." Gentle laughter rippled through the room, and Eleanor felt some of her tension ease. "Before we begin our usual check-ins," Dr. Washington continued, "I want to remind everyone that what's shared here stays here. Stays. This is a space for honesty without judgment, for support without unsolicited advice, and for solidarity in the face of a culture that often renders women our age invisible." The meeting began with women taking turns sharing updates and challenges. Eleanor listened, increasingly astonished by how closely their experiences mirrored her own. A retired nurse described her daughter's attempts to help by reorganizing her kitchen without permission. A former business owner detailed her son-in-law's condescending explanations of financial concepts she'd mastered decades before he was born. A recently widowed teacher shared her children's insistence that she couldn't possibly travel alone at her age 62. When it was Eleanor's turn, she found herself speaking more openly than she had in years, describing the conversation she'd overheard and her feelings of being erased from decisions about her own life. "They talk about me like I'm already incapacitated," she concluded. "Like the 35 years I spent managing school finances, raising 2 children alone, and maintaining my home don't qualify me to make decisions about my future." Nods of recognition and murmurs of support surrounded her. "What you're experiencing is what sociologists call social death," Dr. Washington explained. "It's the process by which society begins to treat certain individuals, often elderly people, particularly women, as if they're already gone, their preferences and autonomy less important than the convenience of those around them." "So, what do we do about it?" asked a petite woman with silver-streaked red hair. "I'm not ready to be socially dead. Thank you very much." "We resist," Dr. Washington said simply. "We establish boundaries. We refuse to be managed or sidelined. And most importantly, we develop lives and identities that don't revolve exclusively around family roles that are increasingly taken for granted." The conversation shifted to strategies for maintaining independence and demanding respect. Women shared resources, recommendations, and stories of successful boundary setting. By the time the meeting ended, Eleanor felt something she hadn't experienced in years, the energizing solidarity of women facing common challenges together. As promised, several members of the group, including Eleanor and Sylvia, reconvened at Charlie's Bar and Grill, where the Thursday night half-price margarita special attracted a surprisingly diverse crowd. "To refusing to disappear," Sylvia toasted, raising her salt-rimmed glass. Eleanor clinked glasses with the group, feeling lighter than she had in months. "To visibility." As the evening progressed, Eleanor found herself deep in conversation with Janet, a former corporate accountant who now taught financial literacy workshops for women. "The biggest mistake I see women our age make," Janet was saying, "is not understanding their own financial position. They let husbands or adult children handle everything, then find themselves completely vulnerable when circumstances change. That's not me," Eleanor assured her. "I've always managed my own finances. I had to after Thomas died." "Good for you," Janet approved. "Too many widows get taken advantage of because they never learned to handle money independently." Eleanor hesitated, then admitted, "Though lately, I've been helping my children more than I probably should. My son nearly lost his house recently, and I stepped in without telling him." "Financially?" Janet asked sharply. Eleanor nodded. "I withdrew from my retirement savings. It's not the first time." Janet's expression grew serious. "Eleanor, that's a dangerous pattern. You can't compromise your future security to repeatedly rescue adults who should be managing their own finances." "They're my children," Eleanor said defensively. "What am I supposed to do?" "Let them struggle when I have resources that could help. There's a difference between occasional help and enabling dependence," Janet pointed out. And there's a profound irony in secretly supporting adult children who are simultaneously planning your financial future without consulting you. Put that way, it did seem absurdly contradictory. Eleanor stared into her half-empty margarita, considering. How much do they know about your financial situation? Janet asked. Very little, Eleanor admitted. They know I was careful with money, but they assume I live primarily on Social Security and a small pension. And do you? Eleanor smiled slightly. Not exactly. Janet leaned forward. I think it's time you had a serious conversation with your financial advisor. Not about helping your children again, but about securing and perhaps redefining your own future. The suggestion stayed with Eleanor long after she returned home. As she prepared for bed, she found herself looking around her bedroom with fresh eyes, not as the aging woman her children saw, but as someone with potential chapters yet to be written. On her nightstand sat a framed photograph of Thomas in his uniform, his smile confident, eyes crinkling at the corners in the way she'd always loved. She picked it up, running her fingers over the familiar features. What would you think of all this, Thomas? She whispered. They want to pack me away somewhere appropriate for my age. They don't see me anymore, just an obligation, a future problem to solve. She could almost hear his response, the gentle teasing tone he'd use when she was being too accommodating. Since when does Eleanor Thompson let anyone else decide what she's capable of? Eleanor set the photograph down with new resolve. Tomorrow, she would call Dr. Chen and schedule that comprehensive portfolio review he'd suggested. It was time to fully understand her options, all of them. Dr. Raymond Chen's office was housed in a converted Victorian in downtown Oak Ridge, the interior modernized with sleek furnishings while preserving the original architectural details. Eleanor had always appreciated this balance of honoring history while embracing the present, perhaps because she aspired to the same in her own life. Eleanor, wonderful to see you, Dr. Chen greeted her, rising from behind his desk. At 57, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had earned his expertise through decades of discipline and continuous learning. I was pleased to receive your call. Thank you for making time on short notice, Eleanor replied, settling into the comfortable chair across from him. I've been doing some thinking since our last conversation. About your financial future, I hope, he said, opening a folder containing her portfolio information. As I mentioned, these withdrawals for your children, while understandable from a maternal perspective, are not sustainable. I know, Eleanor acknowledged. That's partly why I'm here. I need to understand exactly where I stand, not just in terms of current assets, but future security. Dr. Chen nodded approvingly. That's exactly the conversation we should be having. Let me show you the complete picture. Over the next hour, Dr. Chen walked Eleanor through detailed analyses of her investments, retirement accounts, home equity, and projected needs. Charts and graphs illustrated growth patterns, withdrawal impacts, and various scenarios for the next 20 to 30 years. Eleanor studied each document carefully. So, even with the recent withdrawals, I'm in better shape than most people my age, substantially better, Dr. Chen confirmed. Your consistent saving habits during your working years, combined with the conservative investment strategy we implemented after Thomas's insurance benefit was received, have created a solid foundation. The current total value of your portfolio is approximately $1.2 million. Eleanor felt a moment of pride. It wasn't a fortune by modern standards, but it represented decades of careful management and disciplined choices. Choices her children seemed to assume she was incapable of making. Your home is fully paid off and, in today's market, worth approximately $450,000, Dr. Chen continued. Combined with your portfolio, Social Security benefits, and pension, you have the resources to live comfortably for the remainder of your life, assuming prudent management. And if I wanted to make a significant change, Eleanor asked, something beyond basic living expenses, Dr. Chen looked intrigued. What kind of change are you considering? Eleanor hesitated, then decided to share the thoughts that had been forming since the support group meeting. I'm not sure yet, but I'm starting to feel that perhaps I've been too static, too defined by my past roles rather than future possibilities. Dr. Chen leaned back, studying her with newfound interest. I've always believed that financial planning isn't just about preserving wealth, but about enabling the life one truly wants to live. What is it that you want, Eleanor? Not what your children expect, not what society prescribes for someone your age. What do you want? The question hung in the air, both simple and profound. Eleanor realized she hadn't really asked herself that question in 25 years. Since Thomas died, her identity had been constructed around being a supportive mother, a doting grandmother, a reliable employee roles defined by service to others rather than personal fulfillment. I want to matter, she said finally. Not just as someone's mother or grandmother, but as myself. I want to use the skills and knowledge I've acquired over a lifetime in ways that make a difference. I want to be seen as a person of value, not a problem to be managed. Dr. Chen nodded slowly. Those are profound aspirations, Eleanor, and from a financial perspective, you have options for pursuing them. Your resources could support relocation, education, travel, entrepreneurship, various paths to reinvention. Entrepreneurship, Eleanor echoed, the word both intimidating and intriguing. At my age can be an advantage in certain ventures, Dr. Chen pointed out. Experience, perspective, professional networks developed over decades, these are valuable assets. Did you know that contrary to the stereotype of the young tech entrepreneur, the average age of successful business founders in the United States is actually 45, and many highly successful enterprises are started by people in their 50s, 60s, and beyond? Eleanor hadn't known that. Like so many assumptions about aging, the image of entrepreneurship as exclusively young had gone unquestioned in her mind. What would that even look like for someone like me? She wondered aloud. That depends entirely on your interests and expertise, Dr. Chen replied. Financial literacy education for women, perhaps retirement transition consulting. You've navigated significant financial challenges successfully. There are many who could benefit from that knowledge. The suggestion resonated more than Eleanor expected. How many women had she met who found themselves financially vulnerable in later life because they'd never learned to manage money independently? How many had handed over control to husbands or children, only to find themselves powerless when circumstances changed? I wouldn't know where to begin, she admitted. There are resources, Dr. Chen assured her. Programs specifically designed to help people our age explore encore careers in entrepreneurship. In fact, there's a workshop next week at the community center, Living with Purpose After 60. It might be worth attending, even if just for exploration. Eleanor left the office with a folder of financial projections and a head swirling with possibilities she hadn't allowed herself to consider in decades. On the drive home, she found herself taking a detour past the community center to check the event's bulletin board. There it was, Living with Purpose After 60, reimagining life's third act. The workshop was scheduled for Tuesday evening, facilitated by someone named Evelyn Morrison. Eleanor took a photo of the flyer with her phone, a technology skill she'd mastered despite her family's assumptions about her capabilities. As she did, she noticed another woman about her age doing the same thing. Their eyes met in mutual recognition, and they shared a smile of understanding. Neither spoke, but in that moment, Eleanor felt a connection to something larger than herself, a community of women refusing to be defined by others' limited perceptions of what aging should look like. For the first time in years, Eleanor drove home feeling not resignation about her future, but curiosity and even excitement. The conversation with her children about her living situation was still coming, that was inevitable. But perhaps, when it did, she would bring more to that discussion than just resistance. Perhaps she would bring an alternative vision, one where her age was not a liability, but a foundation for something new. As she pulled into her driveway, Eleanor's phone rang. Olivia's name appeared on the screen. Mom, her daughter began without preamble. Nathan and I have been talking, and we'd like to come over this weekend to discuss some options for your future. Gregory knows some excellent retirement communities that offer independent living now, but have assisted options for later well, when you might need more help. Eleanor took a deep breath, feeling the old instinct to acquiesce, warring with her newfound resolve. Actually, Olivia, she said calmly, I've been doing some thinking about my future too. I'd be happy to discuss it with you both, but I should warn you my vision might surprise you. What does that mean? Olivia asked, confusion evident in her voice. It means I'm not finished yet, Eleanor replied. Not by a long shot. The silence on the other end of the line was profound. The community center meeting room was more crowded than Eleanor expected for the Living with Purpose workshop. Nearly 30 people, predominantly women, but with a few men scattered throughout, filled the chairs arranged in a semicircle facing a projection screen. Eleanor chose a seat toward the back, still uncertain about this whole enterprise, but curious enough to show up. She recognized a couple of women from the Sandwich Generation group, but otherwise knew few attendees at precisely 7:00 p.m. A striking woman in her late 60s strode to the front of the room with the confident gait of someone accustomed to commanding attention. Her silver hair was cut in a stylish bob, and she wore a well-tailored pantsuit that suggested both professionalism and creative flair. Good evening, everyone. I'm Evelyn Morrison, former CEO of Morrison Marketing Group and current evangelist for what I call the Encore Revolution. Her voice carried easily through the room, warm but authoritative. Before we begin, I'd like to share a statistic that shocked me when I first encountered it. Americans over 50 are responsible for creating more successful new businesses than any other age demographic. More than millennials, more than Gen Z, more than those supposedly entrepreneurial 40-somethings. A murmur of surprise rippled through the audience. That's right, Evelyn continued. The narrative that innovation and entrepreneurship belong exclusively to the young is not merely inaccurate, it's dangerously misleading. It convinces people with decades of valuable experience, refined judgment, and established networks that they're somehow past their prime, that their most productive years are behind them. Eleanor found herself leaning forward, unexpectedly captivated. I'm here to tell you that's absolute nonsense, Evelyn declared. What the research actually shows is that our age group has several distinct advantages in creating successful ventures, deeper professional networks, better judgment about which opportunities are viable, stronger communication skills, and perhaps most importantly, a clearer sense of purpose beyond mere profit. For the next hour, Evelyn presented research, case studies, and practical guidance for those considering encore careers, meaningful work pursued after traditional retirement age. She discussed various paths, from entrepreneurship to consulting, from nonprofit leadership to creative pursuits, all characterized by three common elements: financial sustainability, personal meaning, and social impact. The key, Evelyn emphasized, is to identify where your experience, skills, and passions intersect with genuine needs in the world. That sweet spot is where the most fulfilling encore careers emerge. After the formal presentation, attendees broke into small discussion groups to explore potential directions. Eleanor found herself sharing a table with four others, including a retired teacher, a former nurse, a recently downsized corporate manager, and a widower who had sold his hardware store after 40 years. I know I want to do something meaningful, the former nurse, Barbara, was saying. But after 40 years in healthcare, I'm burned out on direct patient care. Yet I have all this knowledge that feels wasteful not to use somehow. Have you considered health advocacy? Suggested the corporate manager, James. Helping people navigate the healthcare system, understand treatment options, communicate effectively with providers. It's a growing field, especially for seniors dealing with complex medical situations. Barbara's eyes widened. I hadn't thought of that. That makes a lot of sense. The conversation continued, each person offering insights and possibilities the others might not have considered. When it came to Eleanor's turn, she hesitantly shared her background in school financial management and her growing interest in helping women achieve financial literacy. That's desperately needed, the retired teacher, Diane, said emphatically. I can't tell you how many of my female friends are financially vulnerable because they never learned to manage money independently. Their husbands handled everything, and now they're widowed or divorced and completely at sea. Exactly, Eleanor agreed, warming to the topic. And it's not just older women. I see my own daughter struggling after her divorce because she delegated financial management to her ex-husband throughout their marriage. Have you considered workshops specifically for women in transition? James asked. Divorce, widowhood, retirement, these are critical financial inflection points where targeted guidance can make an enormous difference. The idea resonated deeply. Eleanor could envision creating a program that combined practical financial education with emotional support for women navigating major life changes, something that addressed both the technical aspects of money management and the psychological barriers that often prevented women from taking control of their financial lives. As the workshop concluded, Evelyn circulated among the tables, offering feedback and encouragement. When she reached Eleanor's group, she listened intently to their discussion. Financial literacy for women in transition, Evelyn repeated thoughtfully when Eleanor shared her emerging idea. That's not just needed, it's essential. And your background gives you credibility that conventional financial advisors often lack. You've lived these transitions yourself. It's just a thought, Eleanor said modestly. I wouldn't know where to begin. Most people don't, Evelyn replied with a smile. That's why support and structure are so important in launching Encore careers. Here's my card. If you're serious about exploring this direction, I'd be happy to continue the conversation. Eleanor accepted the card, noticing the embossed logo for Encore Partners LLC beneath Evelyn's name. Thank you. I might take you up on that. As people began dispersing, Eleanor remained seated, turning Evelyn's card over in her fingers, thoughts swirling. The energy in the room had been so different from what she'd expected, not the resigned acceptance of diminished possibilities that characterized so many senior gatherings, but genuine excitement about new horizons. "You're Eleanor Thompson, aren't you?" Evelyn had returned, now standing beside Eleanor's chair, surprised at being recognized. Eleanor nodded. "Yes, but I don't think we've met before tonight." "We haven't," Evelyn confirmed, "but Raymond Chen mentioned you might attend. He and I serve on a nonprofit board together." "Dr. Chen mentioned me." Eleanor was even more surprised. "He said I should watch for a sharp, financially savvy woman with untapped potential who might be ready for her encore." Evelyn's direct gaze was assessing, but not unkind. "He doesn't make such recommendations lightly." Eleanor felt a mixture of flattery and mild betrayal. "I didn't realize Dr. Chen would discuss me with others. He didn't share details," Evelyn assured her. "Just suggested that if you attended, we might have an interesting conversation." She gestured to the now empty chair across from Eleanor. "May I?" Eleanor nodded, curiosity overcoming her initial discomfort. Evelyn settled into the chair with easy grace. "I'll be direct, Eleanor. I'm building something that might interest you. A consulting firm focused specifically on financial transitions for women over 50. Not just education, though that's part of it, but comprehensive support for women navigating major financial inflection points: retirement, widowhood, divorce, inheritance, business exits. That sounds ambitious, Eleanor said carefully. It is, and necessary. Women in our age group control a significant and growing percentage of American wealth, yet are systematically underserved by traditional financial services. They're either ignored entirely or treated condescendingly by advisors who assume they can't understand complicated concepts. Eleanor knew exactly what Evelyn meant. She'd experienced that condescension firsthand, even from advisors younger than her children. "The firm is based in Sarasota," Evelyn continued. "Florida has a natural market for these services. With its large population of active seniors, I've secured office space, developed partnerships with several women's organizations, and begun building a client base. What I need now are partners with the right combination of financial expertise, life experience, and genuine empathy for women in transition." "Partners?" Eleanor echoed, suddenly understanding the direction of this conversation. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm suggesting a conversation about possibilities," Evelyn clarified. "Based on what I've observed tonight and Raymond's recommendation, you have valuable skills and perspectives to offer. Whether that translates to partnership, employment, or some other arrangement would depend on many factors: your interests, goals, willingness to relocate, desired level of involvement." Eleanor's mind was racing. "Relocate to Florida. Eventually, yes, if we determined there was a good fit. Though in today's digital environment, certain functions can be performed remotely, at least initially." The very idea was simultaneously terrifying and exhilarating. Leave Oak Ridge, start over in a new state. Work again, not just as a volunteer, but as a professional with real responsibilities. "This is quite unexpected," Eleanor managed. Evelyn smiled. "The best opportunities often are. And to be clear, I'm not asking for a decision tonight. I'm simply opening a door to exploration." She stood, smoothing her already immaculate pantsuit. "Think about it. If you're interested in continuing the conversation, call me. If not, no harm done." After Evelyn departed, Eleanor remained seated, trying to process the encounter. Part of her wanted to dismiss the whole thing as ridiculous: a 65-year-old widow starting over professionally in a new state. It sounded like the premise of a Hallmark movie, not a realistic plan for someone her age. But another part of her, a part that had been dormant for too long, felt awakened by the possibility. What if she could build something meaningful, something that helped other women while also reclaiming her own sense of purpose and value? What if her age and experience were actually assets rather than liabilities in this new venture? And what would her family think? The question brought Eleanor up short. She could almost hear Olivia's concerned voice. "Mom, be realistic. Starting over at your age in Florida. What about your health? What about us? What about the grandchildren?" As Eleanor gathered her things to leave, her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan Mom. "Don't forget, we're coming Saturday at 10 to talk about your living situation. Gregory found some great options for senior communities." Reality crashed back. Her children were planning to convince her to surrender her independence, while she was contemplating a complete reinvention in another state. The collision course was set. Outside the community center, the spring evening was cool but pleasant. Eleanor paused on the steps, looking up at the emerging stars. Thomas had taught her some constellations during their early dating days, sharing knowledge from his military navigation training. She located the Big Dipper, then followed its curve to find Arcturus, a star Thomas had particularly loved. What would you think of all this, Thomas? She whispered to the night sky. Florida, a new career starting over at 65. Though no audible answer came, Eleanor felt a sense of clarity settling over her. Thomas had always encouraged her independence, had admired her resilience and capability. He'd never wanted her to shrink her life after his death, though that's precisely what she'd done in many ways. Eleanor slipped Evelyn's business card into her purse and walked to her car with a straighter spine and firmer step than she'd had in years. Saturday's conversation with her children would be difficult, but necessary, and perhaps it was time they understood that their mother was not a problem to be solved or a burden to be managed, but a woman with chapters yet to write. As she drove home, Eleanor began to form a plan not just for Saturday's confrontation, but for what might come after. It would require courage, careful preparation, and a willingness to disappoint people who expected her compliance. But for the first time in decades, Eleanor Thompson was ready to prioritize her own vision for her future, even if that vision shocked everyone who thought they knew exactly who she was and what she was capable of becoming. The basement was cooler than the rest of the house, with the musty scent of old papers and stored memories. Eleanor hadn't ventured down here in months, perhaps years, but today she was on a mission. The conversation with her children was scheduled for tomorrow, and she needed something specific before then. Navigating around plastic storage bins and cardboard boxes, Eleanor made her way to the far corner where Thomas's things were stored. After his death, she'd carefully preserved his military memorabilia, personal papers, and the items that seemed most essentially him, unable to part with these tangible connections to the man she'd loved. The box she sought was underneath several others, requiring careful rearrangement of the stack. By the time she extracted it, dust covered her hands and streaked her blouse. But Eleanor felt a sense of accomplishment. This particular box contained Thomas's letters and journals, his thoughts in his own handwriting, preserved across decades. Carrying it upstairs to the kitchen table, Eleanor opened the lid reverently. The familiar scent of old paper and the faintest trace of Thomas's preferred stationery, a brand she could no longer find, brought an unexpected tightness to her throat. 25 years, and still these sensory memories could transport her instantly to their life together. Eleanor wasn't entirely sure what she was looking for, only that she needed Thomas's perspective now more than ever. She began carefully sorting through the contents letters they'd exchanged during deployments, journals from his military years, notebooks filled with ideas and observations. Near the bottom of the box, she found what she didn't know she was seeking: a leather portfolio she'd given Thomas for their 15th anniversary, just 3 years before his death. Inside were business plans, market analyses, and detailed financial projections for a security consulting firm he'd hoped to establish after retiring from the military. Thomas had talked about this dream occasionally, but Eleanor had never realized how thoroughly he'd developed the concept, how seriously he'd planned for that next chapter. Pages of research, potential client lists, competitive analyses, all meticulously organized and annotated in Thomas's precise handwriting. And there, tucked between the pages, was an envelope addressed simply to Ellie. The paper had yellowed slightly with age, but the seal remained unbroken. With trembling fingers, Eleanor opened it, unfolding a letter she'd never known existed. My dearest Ellie, if you're reading this, I'm either finally launching Thompson Security Consultants or I'm gone and you found these plans among my papers. I hope it's the former, but military life has taught me to prepare for all contingencies. These pages represent my dream for our future, a business built on the skills and knowledge I've gained through military service, a way to continue protecting people while building something of our own. I've run the numbers 100 different ways. And with your financial wizardry backing my security expertise, I believe we could create something remarkable together. But whether this particular dream is realized or not, I want you to know something essential. Life is too precious and too short to live according to others' expectations. Too many of my brothers in arms return from service only to find themselves diminished by civilian life, defined by others' limited perceptions rather than their own aspirations. Promise me you won't let that happen to you. Ellie, whatever the future holds, promise me you'll live boldly, pursue what matters to you, and never let anyone, even our beloved children, convince you that your time for dreams and ambitions is past. You are the strongest, most capable person I've ever known. You've managed our home, raised our children, built a career, and supported my military service with grace and resilience that astounds me daily. That capacity for growth and adaptation doesn't expire with age, it deepens. So, if I'm gone when you read this, please know that my greatest hope for you is not that you'll preserve our past, but that you'll continue building your future, whatever shape that takes, Whatever age you may be, whatever others might think prudent or appropriate, all my love, always. Thomas Eleanor sat motionless, tears streaming down her face, the letter clutched in her hands. After all these years, Thomas was still guiding her, still believing in her capacity for more than others might assume possible. She read the letter twice more, then carefully refolded it and placed it in her purse. Tomorrow, when her children arrived to present their plans for her diminished future, Thomas would be with her in spirit, reminding her of her own strength and her right to self-determination. Whatever came next, whether Florida in partnership with Evelyn or some other path entirely, Eleanor knew with sudden clarity that she would not surrender her autonomy without a fight. She was not finished, not by a long shot. Saturday morning dawned crisp and clear, sunlight streaming through the kitchen windows as Eleanor prepared coffee and arranged freshly baked scones on a serving plate. The familiar ritual of hospitality centered her, even as anxiety fluttered in her stomach. She'd slept poorly. Thomas's letter resting on her nightstand, her mind cycling through different approaches to the impending conversation. Should she begin by asserting her independence immediately or wait to hear their full proposal before responding? How could she make them understand that their concern, however well-intentioned, felt like erasure? At precisely 10 a.m., a silver BMW pulled into the driveway, followed moments later by Nathan's pickup truck. Eleanor watched through the window as her children emerged, conversing briefly before approaching the house together. Gregory remained in the BMW, apparently on a phone call, his gestures animated behind the windshield. Eleanor straightened her shoulders and smoothed her cardigan, a soft cashmere she'd splurged on for her 65th birthday. Though neither of her children had commented on it, she wanted to look polished today, not like the slightly rumpled grandmother they were accustomed to seeing. "Mom, we're here," Olivia called, letting herself in through the front door. She was dressed in slim black pants and a tailored blazer, as if for a business meeting rather than a family visit. "In the kitchen," Eleanor replied, arranging her features into a calm expression. Nathan entered first, giving her a quick hug that felt perfunctory. "Morning, Mom. Place looks good." Olivia followed, air kissing Eleanor's cheek. "Mom, you didn't have to go to trouble with food. This is just a casual discussion." "It's no trouble to feed my children," Eleanor said mildly, noting Olivia's characterization of what was clearly a planned intervention as a casual discussion. They settled at the kitchen table, Olivia immediately pulling out a tablet while Nathan fidgeted with his coffee mug. Outside, Gregory concluded his call and exited the BMW, a leather portfolio tucked under his arm. "Gregory's joining us?" Eleanor asked, though it wasn't really a question. "He has expertise in this area," Olivia explained. "He helped his own mother transition to assisted living last year." Before Eleanor could respond, the front door opened again and Gregory strode in, confidence wafting around him like expensive cologne. "Eleanor looking well." He greeted her with the slightly exaggerated enthusiasm people often use with the elderly, as if volume and animation might compensate for substantive engagement. "Ah, coffee and scones, how traditional." The slight emphasis on traditional wasn't lost on Eleanor. In Gregory's lexicon, it seemed, traditional was synonymous with outdated. "Help yourself," she offered, gesturing to the spread. "The scones are fresh from the oven, an old family recipe, but some traditions have endured for good reason." If Gregory caught the subtle pushback, he didn't acknowledge it, simply selecting the smallest scone and placing it on a napkin without taking a bite. "So," Eleanor said once everyone was seated, "you wanted to discuss my living situation." Nathan and Olivia exchanged glances, a silent negotiation about who would lead. Olivia apparently won. "Mom, we've been thinking a lot about your future," she began, her marketing executive voice in full deployment. "You've been in this house alone for 25 years, and while you've managed admirably, we're concerned about the long-term sustainability of this arrangement." "Sustainability," Eleanor repeated, keeping her tone neutral. "An interesting choice of word." "The house is over 80 years old," Nathan interjected. "The maintenance requirements are increasing. The stairs are getting steeper. The stairs haven't changed elevation since the house was built." "Nathan," Eleanor pointed out, "you know what I mean. Mom, as we age, these things become more challenging. The yard work, the upkeep, the utilities for space you don't really need." "And there are safety concerns," Olivia added. "You're isolated here." "What if you fell? What if there was a break-in? You're a woman alone in a house with too many entry points and not enough security features." Eleanor sipped her coffee, letting the pause extend uncomfortably. "I appreciate your concern," she said finally. But I'm curious why this has suddenly become an urgent issue requiring a formal family meeting with visual aids. She nodded toward Olivia's tablet, another exchange of glances between her children. It's not sudden, Mom, Olivia said. We've been worried for years, but you've always been so resistant to change. We're at a point where decisions need to be made proactively. Gregory contributed, opening his portfolio to reveal glossy brochures. The best retirement communities have waiting lists. Planning ahead ensures you have options rather than being forced into less desirable arrangements by emergency circumstances. Eleanor noted his use of you rather than including himself in the family unit, a subtle but telling linguistic distancing. I see, Eleanor said, and you've researched these communities without any input from me about my preferences or plans. We wanted to do the legwork for you, Nathan explained, missing or ignoring the edge in her tone. Make it easier. That's thoughtful, Eleanor acknowledged, though it does make certain assumptions about what I might want. Mom, Olivia leaned forward, adopting her persuasive client presentation posture. These aren't nursing homes. They're vibrant communities for active seniors, independent living with amenities like fitness centers, social activities, dining options. I understand the concept. Olivia, I'm not uninformed about senior living arrangements. Eleanor kept her voice steady. I'm simply questioning the premise that this is a necessary or desirable change at this point in my life. Gregory cleared his throat. Eleanor, the financial aspects are quite compelling. Your home has appreciated significantly. Selling now, in this strong market, would generate substantial proceeds that, properly invested, could fund comfortable retirement living while still preserving a legacy for your children and grandchildren. There it was the financial angle. Eleanor had been waiting for it. And who would manage these investments? She asked innocently. Well, Gregory shifted slightly. I'd be happy to provide guidance. Of course, my firm specializes in wealth management for clients in transition. How generous, Eleanor murmured. And what fees does your firm typically charge for such services? The question clearly caught Gregory off guard. Our fee structure is competitive, 1.5% annually, based on assets under management. Eleanor did the mental calculation instantly. On a $450,000 home sale, that would be $6,950 annually into Gregory's firm's coffers, not counting any commissions on financial products he might recommend. That seems high for essentially maintaining a balanced portfolio, she observed, especially given the many low-cost index funds available to individual investors. Gregory's smile tightened. Our services extend well beyond basic investment allocation. Eleanor, we provide comprehensive financial planning, tax optimization strategies. For someone in my simple circumstances, Eleanor interrupted gently, a widow on fixed income with modest assets, that seems rather like using a sledgehammer to hang a picture. Nathan jumped in, clearly sensing the conversation veering off script. Mom, the point is that this house is becoming impractical. The property taxes alone are eating into your limited resources. And how do you know what my resources are? Nathan, Eleanor asked, maintaining her calm demeanor despite the rising heat in her chest. Mom, we're not blind. You were a school secretary. Dad's military pension and Social Security only go so far. We know you've helped us financially over the years, which we appreciate but also worry about. You shouldn't be compromising your security to bail us out. Eleanor nearly laughed at the irony her children simultaneously planning to manage her diminished resources while acknowledging they'd repeatedly benefited from those supposedly limited funds. I understand your concerns, Eleanor said carefully, but before we go further with this discussion, I'd like to share some information that might provide helpful context. She rose and retrieved her purse from the counter, extracting a folder Dr. Chen had prepared at her request. She placed it on the table but kept her hand on it. Before I show you this, I want to be clear about something. I love you both. I'm grateful for your concern, even if I don't appreciate the manner of its expression. But I need you to understand that I am not an obligation to be managed or a problem to be solved. I am a person with agency, capabilities, and plans of my own. Olivia's expression shifted from persuasive to cautious. Mom, no one is suggesting, please let me finish. Olivia? Eleanor's tone was firm but not harsh. For 25 years, I've prioritized your needs above my own. I've adjusted my schedule, depleted my savings, and compromised my own plans to support your aspirations and emergencies. I've done so willingly, out of love, but that willingness has apparently created a misconception about my capabilities and autonomy. She opened the folder and extracted the first document, a comprehensive financial statement prepared by Dr. Chen. This is my current financial positions. As you can see, I am not dependent on Social Security and a small pension. I have investments and retirement accounts valued at approximately 1.2 million, not including home equity. The stunned silence around the table was almost worth the decades of financial privacy Eleanor had maintained. That's that's impossible. Nathan finally managed. How could you possibly have that much careful management, consistent saving, and prudent investment? Eleanor replied evenly. I began investing the insurance proceeds after your father died, adding to those investments regularly throughout my working years. Dr. Chen and I have maintained a conservative but effective strategy for over 20 years. Dr. Chen, Olivia echoed weakly. You have a financial advisor. Of course I do. Did you imagine I kept my savings in mason jars buried in the garden? Gregory recovered first, professional instincts kicking in. These are impressive figures, Eleanor. All the more reason to ensure proper management going forward. As we age, cognitive changes can affect financial decision-making capacity. My cognitive function is excellent. Gregory, as my doctor confirmed just last week during my annual physical. Eleanor extracted another document from the folder. This is my current estate plan, recently updated with Dr. Margaret Chen, who has been my attorney for 15 years. You'll note that it includes specific provisions regarding financial and healthcare decisions should I become incapacitated. She turned to her children, whose expressions remained shocked. I'm not sharing this to embarrass you, but to correct misperceptions that seem to be driving this intervention. I am not financially vulnerable. I am not incapable of managing my affairs, and I am not ready to be relegated to a community where my primary identity would be my age. Nathan found his voice first. Mom, why didn't you ever tell us about this all these years? You thought what you wanted to think, Eleanor said gently. You saw what you expected to see, an aging widow with limited resources who needed your protection. You never asked about my financial situation. Nathan, not once in 25 years. Yet you felt qualified to plan my financial future without my input. We were trying to help, Olivia protested, though her conviction had visibly wavered. I know, Eleanor acknowledged, but help that doesn't recognize the autonomy and capabilities of the person being helped isn't really assistance, it's management. And I don't need to be managed. Gregory, ever the professional, attempted to recover the momentum. These resources actually expand your options. Eleanor, with proper planning, you could afford premium continuing care retirement communities that offer Gregory. Eleanor interrupted, patience thinning. I appreciate your expertise, but I'm not interested in continuing care communities at this time. Which brings me to the second purpose of this conversation. She withdrew a final document from the folder, Evelyn Morrison's business proposal, which had arrived by courier the previous day. I'm considering a business opportunity in Sarasota, Florida. The statement hung in the air like a sudden clap of thunder on a clear day. A what? Olivia finally managed. A business opportunity? Eleanor repeated calmly. A partnership in a financial consulting firm specializing in transition planning for women over 50. Nathan's expression shifted from shock to concern. Mom, be serious. You can't start a business at 65. You can't move to Florida. What about your health? What about us? What about the grandchildren? My health is excellent, Nathan. As for family connections, I'm not suggesting severing ties, merely establishing a life that reflects my capabilities and aspirations rather than others' expectations. This is absurd, Olivia sputtered. You've never even mentioned interest in business. You've been retired for 5 years. You can't just suddenly decide to become an entrepreneur and move across the country. Why not? Eleanor asked simply. Because, because, Olivia gestured expansively, as if the reasons were so obvious they defied articulation. Because it's not what women your age do, Gregory supplied, his confidence returning. Eleanor, these impulses toward dramatic change are actually quite common at certain life stages. It's a reaction to feelings of irrelevance or mortality, but making major decisions from that emotional state rarely ends well. Eleanor felt a surge of anger, but controlled it. That's a remarkably condescending analysis. Gregory, would you apply the same psychologizing to a 65-year-old man considering a business venture? Or is it specifically women my age whose decisions require such patronizing scrutiny? Gregory had the grace to look slightly abashed, but recovered quickly. It's not about gender, Eleanor. It's about pragmatism. The failure rate for new businesses is significant even for younger entrepreneurs with industry experience. The stress alone could exacerbate health issues. I didn't say I was starting a business from scratch, Eleanor clarified. I've been invited to join an established consultant as a partner, contributing my financial expertise and life experience to a firm specifically serving women in transition. This is crazy, Mom, Nathan insisted. You can't just abandon your home, your family, everything familiar to chase some Florida business scheme that probably won't even work out. Eleanor studied her son, hearing beneath his protest the real concern if she wasn't here, available whenever needed. His own life would become more complicated. No emergency childcare, no financial bailouts disguised as loans, no reliable fallback when his own plans collapsed. Nathan, she said gently, I haven't made a final decision. I'm exploring options, which is precisely what you and Olivia claim to be doing on my behalf. The difference is, I'm considering possibilities that expand my horizons rather than contract them. We're thinking about your safety and security, Olivia insisted. This, this business idea sounds risky and impulsive. Perhaps, Eleanor acknowledged, but it's my risk to evaluate, my impulse to examine. Just as this house is my home to keep or sell according to my judgment, not yours. A tense silence fell over the table. Gregory checked his watch, clearly recalculating his approach to this unexpectedly resistant potential client. I think we should all take a step back, he suggested in his professional mediator voice. Eleanor, you've given us a lot to process. Perhaps we could reconvene when emotions aren't running quite so high. That's probably wise, Eleanor agreed, suppressing a smile at his transparent attempt to delay until a more favorable moment. In the meantime, I'd appreciate if you'd respect my right to explore options without intervention. No more retirement community research on my behalf. No more discussions about managing my assets. Mom, Nathan began, but Eleanor held up her hand. I mean it, Nathan. I've listened to your concerns. I've acknowledged your good intentions. Now I'm asking for the same courtesy in return recognition that I'm capable of directing my own life, even if my choices don't align with your expectations. As her children and Gregory gathered their materials, the glossy brochures now seemingly inadequate against Eleanor's unexpected revelations, she felt a strange mixture of emotions: regret that the conversation had been necessary, relief that it was over, and an unfamiliar exhilaration at having finally asserted boundaries that should have been established years ago. At the door, Olivia paused. Mom, we only want what's best for you. I know, sweetheart, but what's best isn't objective, it's deeply personal. And for too long, I've allowed others to define it for me rather than determining it for myself. After they departed, Eleanor returned to the kitchen and poured herself a fresh cup of coffee. She carried it to the garden room, settling into her favorite chair overlooking the spring flowers beginning to emerge in the backyard. From her pocket, she withdrew Thomas's letter, reading once more his affirmation of her strength and his encouragement to live boldly, regardless of others' expectations. For the first time in years, she felt truly aligned with that vision, not just surviving in the aftermath of loss, but creating something meaningful from the wisdom those losses had forged. The confrontation with her children had been difficult, but necessary. Whatever came next, whether Florida or some other path Eleanor knew, she had crossed an essential threshold. She had reclaimed her right to self-determination, to growth, to possibility. The journey ahead remained uncertain, but that uncertainty now felt like adventure rather than anxiety. At 65, Eleanor Thompson was finally ready to discover who she might still become. You told her about your financial situation, all of it. Sylvia's voice carried equal measures of shock and admiration through the phone. Eleanor adjusted her reading glasses, scrolling through Evelyn Morrison's detailed business proposal on her laptop. I did. You should have seen their faces. Syl, I think Nathan nearly swallowed his tongue. I can imagine, Sylvia chuckled. How are they taking it? Now that they've had time to process with varying degrees of acceptance, Olivia called yesterday, still trying to convince me that Florida is too hot, too humid, and too far from family. Nathan hasn't spoken to me directly, but Rebecca texted asking if I'd still be available for occasional childcare when I visit. As if your primary function during visits would be providing free babysitting, Sylvia observed dryly. Exactly. Eleanor sighed. I understand their confusion. For decades, I've been the accommodating mother and grandmother, always available, never asserting my own preferences. This shift feels sudden to them, though it's been building in me for years. And what about this business opportunity? Are you seriously considering it? Eleanor hesitated, then admitted, more than considering. I've scheduled a trip to Sarasota next week to meet with Evelyn, tour the office space, and discuss specifics. If things align with my expectations, I may move forward. Eleanor Thompson, entrepreneur at 65. I never doubted you had it in you, but I'll admit I'm impressed by your courage. It's not courage so much as clarity. Eleanor reflected, finding Thomas's letter, connecting with other women experiencing similar transitions. Meeting Evelyn, these things helped me recognize possibilities I'd closed myself off from. Speaking of other women, Sylvia said, the group was buzzing about your stand against the family intervention. You've become something of an inspiration. You know? That's absurd. I haven't done anything extraordinary. But you have, Elle. Do you know how many women our age simply acquiesce to their children's expectations? How many surrender their homes, their independence, their aspirations because they've been convinced they're burdens rather than assets? Your refusal to be diminished resonates. Eleanor hadn't considered this broader context. She'd been focused on her personal situation, not seeing it as part of a larger pattern affecting women her age. Maybe that's the real opportunity here, she mused. Not just financial consulting, but helping women recognize and reclaim their value at a stage when society expects diminishment. Now you're thinking like an entrepreneur, Sylvia approved, identifying a genuine need and envisioning how your experience might address it. After ending the call, Eleanor returned to Evelyn's proposal with fresh perspective. The business model was solid, the financial projections realistic if somewhat conservative. The partnership structure Evelyn suggested would allow Eleanor to contribute her expertise while gradually increasing her involvement as she adjusted to this dramatic life change. Florida was indeed far from Connecticut, from the family and community she'd known for decades. Yet distance might actually benefit her relationships with Olivia and Nathan, creating boundaries that proximity had made too easy to ignore. And modern technology meant she could maintain meaningful connections with her grandchildren, perhaps even deeper connections than the superficial interactions that often characterize their current visits. As Eleanor considered these possibilities, her phone rang. The caller ID showed Sophie Sullivan Rebecca and Nathan's youngest child. At 8, Sophie was too young for her own phone, which meant she was calling from one of her parents' devices. Hello, sweetheart, Eleanor answered, immediately concerned. Is everything okay? Hi, Grandma. Sophie's small voice replied. Daddy doesn't know I'm calling you. He's in the shower, and I borrowed his phone. Eleanor's concern deepened. Sophie, honey, you shouldn't use Daddy's phone without permission. I know, but I needed to talk to you privately. Sophie's serious tone was incongruous coming from such a young child. Daddy and Mommy were talking about you moving away to Florida, and Daddy seemed really upset. Are you really leaving us, Grandma? The innocent question pierced Eleanor's heart. Of all her grandchildren, Sophie had always been the most attached to her, the one who still genuinely enjoyed their time together rather than viewing it as an obligation. I'm considering some changes, sweetheart, Eleanor answered carefully. But I'm not leaving you. I could never leave you completely. But Florida is really far away. Chloe's grandmother lives in Florida, and she only sees her at Christmas. Technology is wonderful these days. We could video chat regularly, and you could visit me. Florida has beautiful beaches and theme parks. It wouldn't be the same, Sophie insisted. Who would teach me to bake cookies? Who would listen to me practice reading? Daddy and Mommy are always busy, and Emma and Lily just want to be on their phones all the time. Eleanor closed her eyes briefly, feeling the weight of Sophie's dependence. It would be so easy to surrender her plans, to remain the ever-available grandmother, to continue subordinating her needs to others' expectations. But what message would that send to this bright, perceptive child? That women should eternally sacrifice their own fulfillment for others' convenience. That grandmother was a role that erased all other aspects of identity. Sophie, Eleanor said gently, do you remember when you wanted to join the science club last year? But Lily said science was boring and tried to convince you to do dance team with her instead. Yes, Sophie replied, clearly puzzled by the change of subject. But I really wanted to do science club. And you did, because it was important to you, even though some people didn't understand or support your choice. Remember how proud you felt when your volcano project won the school fair? Really proud, Sophie confirmed. Daddy said I was stubborn in a good way. That's exactly right. Sometimes being stubborn in a good way means following your heart, even when others don't immediately understand. That's what I'm doing now, Sophie. I found something important that I want to pursue, something that makes me feel excited and valuable. Like my science experiments make me feel just like that. Eleanor smiled at the child's intuitive understanding. I'll always be your grandmother, always love you, always want to be part of your life. But I might do that from a different place, in a different way than before. Sophie was quiet for a moment, processing this with the seriousness children sometimes bring to adult concepts. Would you have a swimming pool at your house in Florida? She finally asked. Chloe's grandmother has a swimming pool. Eleanor laughed, tension releasing. I might. Would you like to help me pick a house with a good swimming pool when the time comes? Yes, Sophie's enthusiasm returned. And can I have my own room for when I visit with science decorations? Absolutely. We could set up a special space just for you. Eleanor felt a rush of gratitude for this child's resilience and adaptability, qualities adults often lost with age. But right now, sweetheart, you should put Daddy's phone back before he finishes his shower. Okay, I love you, Grandma. Even if you move to Florida, I love you too, Sophie, no matter where either of us lives. After the call ended, Eleanor sat with her laptop open but forgotten, contemplating the conversation. Sophie's initial resistance, followed by acceptance, seemed symbolic of the journey her entire family might need to make, from reflexive opposition to a new reality, to eventual understanding of its necessity and potential benefits. The path forward wouldn't be easy. There would be more difficult conversations, logistical challenges, emotional upheavals. But for the first time in decades, Eleanor felt fully alive, engaged not just in supporting others' journeys, but in actively creating her own. She returned to Evelyn's proposal with renewed purpose, making notes about questions to ask during her upcoming visit to Sarasota. This wasn't about escaping family obligations or punishing her children for their intervention attempt. It was about embracing possibilities that honored her capabilities, experience, and right to continued growth. At 65, Eleanor Thompson was finally ready to discover her worth, not as defined by others' needs and expectations, but as expressed through her own choices and contributions. Whatever challenges lay ahead, that fundamental shift in perspective felt like victory already. Sarasota in May was a revelation. While Connecticut was still experiencing cool spring temperatures, Florida offered warmth that seemed to seep into Eleanor's bones, easing the persistent ache in her knees that she'd attributed to age rather than climate. The weather is one of Florida's best selling points for transplants from the Northeast, Evelyn observed as they walked along the marina. Elegant yachts bobbing gently in their slips, especially those with arthritis or similar conditions. Eleanor nodded, breathing in the salt-tinged air. I can see why. I haven't felt this physically comfortable in years. Their 3-day visit had been meticulously organized by Evelyn, balancing business discussions with exploration of the area. They'd toured potential neighborhoods, visited the already established office space in downtown Sarasota, and met with several existing clients whose testimonials about Evelyn's services had been compelling. What are you thinking? Evelyn asked as they paused to watch pelicans diving for fish in the turquoise water. You've been quiet since our meeting with Barbara this morning. Barbara Levinson, a 72-year-old widow who'd lost her husband of 50 years to cancer, had shared how Evelyn's guidance had helped her navigate not just the financial aftermath, but the identity reconstruction required by such a profound loss. I'm thinking about impact, Eleanor replied honestly. Barbara's story resonated deeply with me. When she described feeling erased after her husband's death, reduced to just Tom's widow, rather than a person with her own identity and value, that was my experience too. Though I never articulated it so clearly. It's remarkably common, Evelyn agreed. Our society has limited frameworks for understanding women beyond their relationships to others, wife, mother, grandmother. When those roles change through death, divorce, or children's independence, many women struggle to recognize their intrinsic value separate from service to others. That's exactly it, Eleanor said, surprised by Evelyn's precise articulation of what she'd felt for years. And it's not just external we internalize these limitations. I spent decades defining my worth through availability and sacrifice, measuring my success by how effectively I anticipated and fulfilled others' needs. Evelyn nodded. The transition from that identity to one based on personal aspirations and contributions beyond family is profoundly challenging. That's the space where our services could be genuinely transformative, not just offering financial guidance, but helping women recognize their continued value and potential. They resumed walking, a comfortable silence between them as Eleanor processed these insights. The professional chemistry she felt with Evelyn had been unexpected but undeniable. Despite their different backgrounds, Evelyn's corporate leadership contrasting with Eleanor's more modest career, they shared a vision for supporting women through critical life transitions. I have concerns, Eleanor admitted finally. Practical ones about relocating at my age, personal ones about distance from family, professional ones about whether my skills are truly transferable to this context. All legitimate, Evelyn acknowledged. I'd be worried if you didn't have concerns. Major life changes should be approached thoughtfully, especially at our age. At the same time, Eleanor continued, I feel more energized by this possibility than by anything in recent memory. The opportunity to help women like Barbara, like myself, to transform personal experience into professional value is compelling beyond words. Then perhaps we focus on addressing those legitimate concerns rather than allowing them to become barriers, Evelyn suggested pragmatically. Relocation could be phased, beginning with extended visits rather than an immediate permanent move. Family connections can be maintained through technology and regular travel. Professional skills can be supplemented with targeted training and mentorship. Eleanor appreciated Evelyn's problem solving approach, not dismissing concerns, but reframing them as challenges to be navigated rather than obstacles that precluded progress. I'd need to sell my house, she thought aloud. Not because I can't afford to maintain it, but because holding on to it would feel like hedging my bets, keeping one foot in my old life rather than fully committing to the new. Evelyn nodded. I understand that completely. When I divorced at 58 and left my corporate position to start this venture, selling the house I'd shared with my ex-husband for 30 years was the most difficult yet liberating step. It wasn't about the physical structure, but what it represented: safety, familiarity, identity. Exactly. Eleanor agreed. And I'd want to find a place here that feels like mine from the beginning, not just temporary accommodations. Real estate in Sarasota is competitive, but not prohibitive, Evelyn noted. With the proceeds from your Connecticut home, you could purchase something lovely here, perhaps a condo with amenities to simplify maintenance, or a small house if you prefer garden space. As they continued discussing practical considerations, Eleanor felt a growing certainty about her direction. The obstacles were real, but surmountable. The potential benefits: professional fulfillment, personal growth, physical comfort, new social connections outweighed the challenges of transition. By the time they returned to Evelyn's condominium for a final business discussion, Eleanor had reached a decision, not an impulsive one born of rebellion against her children's intervention, but a considered choice based on genuine opportunity and alignment with her values. I'd like to move forward, she said as they settled in Evelyn's elegant living room overlooking the bay. Not precipitously, but purposefully. I'd like to formalize our partnership agreement, begin the process of selling my house, and establish a timeline for relocation that allows proper transition for both family relationships and professional responsibilities. Evelyn's smile was warm, but contained appropriate gravity for the significance of the decision. I'm delighted, Eleanor, not just for the business, though I believe your contribution will be substantial, but for you personally. This choice represents tremendous courage and self-respect. It doesn't feel like courage, Eleanor reflected. It feels like necessity, like becoming fully myself after decades of existing primarily in relation to others' needs. That, Evelyn said quietly, is precisely the journey we'll be helping other women navigate. And having walked it yourself will make you an extraordinarily effective guide. As they toasted the partnership with glasses of chilled white wine, Eleanor felt a sense of rightness settle over her. The path ahead would require significant adaptation, but for the first time in decades, she was moving towards something rather than merely maintaining what already existed. At 65, Eleanor Thompson was finally writing her own story rather than serving as a supporting character in others. Whatever challenges awaited, that fundamental shift was worth every risk. The "for sale" sign in Eleanor's front yard provoked more reaction from the neighborhood than she'd anticipated. Mrs. Abernathy next door actually cried when Eleanor shared her plans, though she recovered quickly to ask for Eleanor's Florida address so she could send Christmas cards. Her book club organized an impromptu farewell gathering, complete with heartfelt toasts and a travel journal for documenting her new adventures. The library volunteer coordinator presented her with a certificate of appreciation for her years of service, along with an invitation to join their digital volunteer program if she wished to continue supporting literacy efforts remotely. These expressions of community connection touched Eleanor deeply, reminders that her life in Oak Ridge extended beyond family obligations. She found herself wondering if she was making a terrible mistake, abandoning established relationships for uncertain possibilities in an unfamiliar place. But each morning, as she sorted through decades of accumulated possessions, deciding what to keep, sell, donate, or discard, Eleanor also experienced a growing sense of liberation. Physical decluttering became metaphorical releasing objects that no longer served her current needs or future aspirations, felt like shedding outdated versions of herself. The most difficult sorting involved family memorabilia. Eleanor had preserved everything from her children's first finger paintings to their college acceptance letters, maintained detailed photo albums of their achievements and her grandchildren's milestones. What should she do with these tangible records of family history? After considerable reflection, Eleanor decided to create digital archives, scanning important documents and photographs before carefully packing the originals for her children to store or display as they wished. This process, though time-consuming, felt like appropriate stewardship, preserving family heritage, while acknowledging that carrying its physical manifestation across the country was neither practical nor necessary. Through it all, Eleanor's children maintained a careful distance, Olivia called regularly but avoided discussing the impending move directly, focusing instead on the twins' activities or her work challenges. Nathan appeared occasionally to help with physical tasks like clearing the attic or basement, but his assistance came with minimal conversation and palpable disapproval. Eleanor understood their resistance represented grief rather than simple stubbornness. Her decision had disrupted not just practical arrangements, but their fundamental understanding of family dynamics and their mother's identity. Adjustment would require time and evidence that this transformation enhanced rather than diminished family connections. The real estate market proved even more favorable than anticipated. Eleanor's carefully maintained Victorian, with its established gardens and original architectural details, attracted multiple offers within days of listing. The final sale price exceeded her expectations by nearly $50,000, providing additional financial cushion for her transition. The buyers, a young family with two elementary-aged children, clearly loved the house's character and history. During the final walkthrough, Eleanor found herself sharing stories about raising her own children there, the growth chart penciled inside the pantry door, the backyard tree that had supported generations of swings and climbing adventures, the window seat where she'd read countless bedtime stories on winter evenings. "This house has been happy," she told the young mother, who was visibly moved by these glimpses of family history. "I hope it brings your family as much joy as it brought mine." "We'll take good care of it," the woman promised. "And maybe someday when you visit your family in Connecticut, you could stop by and see what we've done with the gardens. My husband isn't much of a gardener, and I could use some guidance." The gracious invitation acknowledged continuity amid change, suggesting that leaving didn't necessitate complete severance from places and people that mattered. Eleanor found this perspective comforting as she navigated the emotional complexities of her transition. As moving day approached, Eleanor scheduled a family dinner, not at her increasingly empty house, but at a local restaurant that had hosted celebrations throughout her children's lives. The neutral territory seemed appropriate for what she hoped would be a healing conversation rather than another confrontation. Nathan arrived first, uncharacteristically prompt, with Rebecca and the children. Olivia followed shortly after with the twins, apologizing for Gregory's absence due to a client emergency. "Actually, I'm glad it's just family tonight," Eleanor admitted as they settled around the large round table. "There are some things I'd like to discuss before my move becomes final." The tension around the table was palpable. Even the grandchildren seemed to sense the significance of the gathering, temporarily setting aside their usual devices and sibling squabbles. Eleanor took a deep breath, centering herself for what she hoped would be a productive rather than divisive conversation. "First, I want to thank you all for respecting my decision, even though I know you haven't fully understood or supported it." She looked directly at Nathan and Olivia. "Change is difficult, especially when it disrupts established patterns and expectations. I recognize that my choices have created challenges for all of you." Nathan shifted uncomfortably, but remained silent. Olivia nodded slightly, acknowledging the understatement. "I also want to address some practical matters," Eleanor continued. "The house closing is scheduled for next Tuesday. My lease in Sarasota begins the following Monday, giving me time to fly down and receive my shipped belongings. I've arranged for my car to be transported separately." "That seems efficient," Olivia commented, her marketing executive voice masking whatever emotions might be simmering beneath. "I've tried to be thorough," Eleanor acknowledged. "But beyond logistics, I want to discuss how we maintain meaningful family connections despite geographical distance." At this, Sophie perked up. "Grandma's going to have a swimming pool at her new house," she announced to the table at large. "And I'm going to have my own room with science decorations when I visit." All eyes turned to the 8-year-old, then back to Eleanor questioningly. "Sophie and I have had some conversations about the move," Eleanor explained, smiling at her youngest grandchild. "And yes, I found a lovely townhouse in a community with excellent amenities, including a pool. It has 3 bedrooms, one for me, one for my home office, and one specifically for grandchildren visits." "You've been discussing this with Sophie?" Rebecca asked, surprise evident in her tone. "We've had several phone conversations," Eleanor said calmly. "Sophie had questions about my move, and I felt she deserved honest, age-appropriate answers." "Without consulting us first," Nathan added, an edge to his voice. "She's my granddaughter. Nathan, having private conversations with her isn't inappropriate. It is when you're making promises about visits to Florida without discussing schedules or logistics with her parents," Nathan countered. Eleanor felt the conversation veering toward confrontation rather than reconciliation. She took another centering breath. "You're right that coordination will be necessary for visits. That's exactly the kind of practical matter I hoped we could discuss tonight: how to maintain regular contact through technology, how to plan visits in both directions, how to ensure my move strengthens rather than weakens family bonds. That's a nice sentiment, Mom, Olivia interjected. But the reality is that distance complicates relationships. The spontaneous Sunday dinners, the last minute babysitting, the everyday interactions that keep families connected, those disappear when someone moves across the country. They change, Eleanor corrected gently. They require more intentionality, more planning. But quality connection isn't dependent on proximity. Many families maintain deeply meaningful relationships across greater distances than Florida to Connecticut. It's not just about distance, Nathan said, frustration evident in his voice. It's about priorities. You're choosing a business venture with someone you barely know over daily involvement with your family. That sends a pretty clear message about what matters to you. The accusation stung, but Eleanor recognized the hurt beneath it. For his entire life, Nathan had been able to count on her unconditional support and availability. Her prioritization of a different path felt like rejection rather than legitimate self-development. Nathan, she began carefully, my decision to pursue this opportunity isn't a statement about how much I value family. It's an acknowledgement that at 65, I still have contributions to make beyond grandmother and emergency support system. It's recognition that I have legitimate needs for purpose, growth, and self-determination. And those needs can't be fulfilled here, Olivia asked, genuinely perplexed. There must be opportunities in Connecticut that wouldn't require such dramatic disruption. Perhaps, Eleanor acknowledged. But sometimes distance creates clarity that proximity prevents. Our established patterns have become so entrenched that modifying them while remaining physically present would be extraordinarily difficult. She looked around the table at her grandchildren, who were listening with varying degrees of comprehension and interest. What I hope all of you understand, especially you younger ones, is that this move isn't about loving you less or wanting to be separated from you. It's about showing you, through example rather than just words, that life continues to offer possibilities for growth and contribution at every age. That women, in particular, don't become less valuable or capable as they grow older. Emma, at 15, the most emotionally perceptive of the grandchildren, spoke unexpectedly. Is that how we made you feel? Grandma less valuable because you're older? The directness of the question created a moment of startled silence. Eleanor considered her response carefully, not wanting to assign blame, but also unwilling to deny emotional realities that had influenced her decision. Not intentionally, she said finally. But our society has limited frameworks for understanding older women's identities and contributions. We're often defined primarily through service roles, grandmother, caretaker, supporter, rather than recognized for our continuing capacity for achievement and growth. Emma nodded thoughtfully. Like when Mom and Dad were talking about finding you a nice retirement community where you could age appropriately, as if being your age meant you were finished doing important things. Eleanor smiled at her granddaughter's perceptiveness. Exactly. There's an unspoken assumption that at a certain age, particularly for women, ambition and aspiration should be replaced by acceptance and accommodation. But that's not fair, Sophie interjected with the straightforward indignation of childhood. Grandma is super smart and knows lots of stuff. She should be allowed to do important things if she wants to. From the mouths of babes, Eleanor murmured, touched by her grandchildren's understanding where adult children still struggled. Nathan and Olivia exchanged glances, clearly recognizing that their children were identifying problematic assumptions they themselves had perpetuated. Mom, Olivia said finally, I think we've been so focused on practical concerns, your safety, your well-being, maintaining family connections, that we failed to acknowledge the deeper aspects of your decision. If this move represents meaningful growth and purpose for you, then of course we should support it, even while working through the logistical challenges it creates. The concession, though qualified, represented significant progress. Eleanor reached across the table to squeeze her daughter's hand gratefully. Thank you, Olivia. That means more than you know. Nathan remained silent, his expression still troubled. Eleanor knew his acceptance would come more slowly, if at all. His relationship with her had always involved more practical dependence than Olivia's financial assistance during business downturns, childcare during Rebecca's frequent yoga retreats, household help during renovations and emergencies. Her unavailability represented genuine complications in his family management strategies. I propose we approach this transition as an opportunity rather than a loss, Eleanor suggested. An opportunity to establish more intentional communication routines, to plan meaningful visits rather than defaulting to obligation-based interactions, to develop relationships based on genuine connection rather than mere proximity. The remainder of the dinner focused on practical arrangements, setting up regular video chat schedules with each grandchild. planning a family visit to Florida during winter break, establishing emergency contact protocols, and addressing various logistical considerations. By the time dessert arrived, the atmosphere had shifted from tense resistance to cautious acceptance. Not universal enthusiasm, Nathan still participated minimally. His contributions focused on practical matters rather than emotional reconciliation, but progress nonetheless. As the gathering concluded, Emma approached Eleanor privately, while others were collecting coats and settling bills. Grandma, she said with unusual seriousness for a 15-year-old, I think what you're doing is really brave. Standing up for yourself and following your dreams even when other people don't understand at first. Eleanor hugged her granddaughter, touched by this unexpected support. Thank you, sweetheart. That means a great deal coming from you. Maybe I could come visit by myself sometime, Emma suggested. Without my parents or the twins. I'd like to see what you're building there. I'd love that, Eleanor said sincerely. Perhaps next summer, if your parents approve. You could help me with some projects at the new business. Emma's face brightened at the suggestion of meaningful contribution rather than merely visiting as a dependent child. That would be amazing. I'll definitely ask. As Eleanor drove home that evening to her increasingly empty house, she reflected on the dinner's outcomes. Not perfect resolution family transitions rarely achieve that, but movement toward understanding, toward recognition of her legitimate need for self-determination, even as family connections remained important. The path ahead still contained significant challenges, the physical demands of relocation, the emotional adjustments of geographical separation, the professional learning curve of her new venture. But Eleanor faced these challenges with growing confidence, secure in her decision and increasingly hopeful about its potential benefits, not just for herself, but for her entire family. In choosing to honor her own worth rather than subordinating it to others' expectations, Eleanor Thompson was modeling something essential for her children and grandchildren: the courage to evolve beyond prescribed roles, to seek purpose at every life stage, and to value oneself enough to pursue meaningful growth even when that pursuit disrupts comfortable patterns. That lesson, she believed, might ultimately prove more valuable than her constant physical presence had ever been.